Currently, only in North Korea, Cuba, and Ukraine you cannot buy or sell agricultural land, and this is the thing that we really want to change.
In Kiev, this is Josh Friedman speaking with Maryan Zablotskyy, a member of the Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, and a member of President Zelensky's Servant of the People Party. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
You just gave a speech at this conference here, and it was a very libertarian-oriented speech. You were discussing how there are libertarian reforms in process right now in the Ukrainian parliament. Could you please tell me about some of them?
Some of them I definitely can, since they have been announced by the president already. The major one that I'm working very hard is the land reform. So currently only in North Korea, Cuba, and Ukraine you cannot buy or sell agricultural land, and this is the thing that we really want to change. So basically in Europe the biggest property rights violation is our land sale ban of agricultural land. 7,700,000 landowners who own that land privately, completely privately, it's their own private property, cannot sell it freely, and doesn't matter any conditions. Most of them, more than 50% of them, are already pensioners. A quarter of them are around 70 years of age. They have an average pension of roughly $60-70 per month, and they are still forbidden from selling their property even if they really need to. So, and the president gave the direct order to prepare the legislation to cancel that ban by 1st of October, and I'm currently working very hard on that.
And what kind of impact do you think that this agricultural land reform would have on the Ukrainian economy?
Well, it will definitely be a very significant boost, because almost 7 million people get an immediate access to quite significant number of cash if they decide to do so, which they can spend on goods, which they can invest, etc. Secondly, a lot of activities in agriculture were prevented because farmers who actually use the land, they are not landowners. So they are not incentivized to invest in irrigation. They are not incentivized into producing something that requires much higher investments. But when they become owners of the land, and they will know that they are now for sure the landowners, it's not just a lease contract for 10 or 20 years, they will definitely be incentivized more to invest.
What are some of the other economic reforms that are in the works in Parliament?
Well, we want to get rid of some of the monopolies. Again, only 2 countries in Europe have the ban to produce spirits, the alcohol, for the industry. The ban looks like this: only state-owned companies can produce spirit, which is absolutely insane. We have over 90 of these outdated plants, state-owned plants around Ukraine, which were built roughly after the Second World War, which are horribly inefficient, which produce massive amounts of illicit alcohol. So currently about 60% of distilled spirits of hard liquor in Ukraine is illegal, it's illicit. It causes heavy losses to the state budget, and it causes an incredible amount of organized crime around it. So definitely we will cancel the state monopoly and will allow private companies to actually produce distilled spirits. It's a very important issue for our economy.
Can you explain what's going on with tax reform now in Ukraine? There seems to be some debate, at least among libertarians, about what direction tax reform is going.
Yeah, well, currently we have very intense internal debates on those issues. That's as far as I can go on that, because we have an agreement internally that publicly we only speak on positions that we have finally agreed upon. Currently, I am proposing amendments to legislation that has been proposed by State Fiscal Administration, because de facto all of the legislation that is currently being proposed to Parliament has been drafted by our fiscal authorities. And of course they have a tendency to make some things more comfortable for them rather than to taxpayers. I am proposing a couple of amendments that should change the situation, hopefully.
So you personally are working on the tax reform?
Yes, I'm a member of the Parliament's Committee on Banking and Finance and also taxation. And this also includes gambling and other ideas. And by the way, gambling is also another thing that we definitely want to legalize in the upcoming weeks.
And you think that legalization of gambling could have a major effect on the economy?
Sure. This is definitely the thing that can bring quite a significant amount of cash to the state budget, but the philosophy is also another. We want to make our security apparatus less incentivized to do stupid things. For example, of course, if our 60% of the hard liquor market is illicit, it requires quite significant price to our security authorities, and that's why one of the reasons that we want to demonopolize these things. And the same goes to gambling. We have around 7,000 gambling spots around the country, which is officially like quasi-legal as lottery, pretends to be a lottery. But we want to legalize it and to make it in a way and to implement rules that would actually protect gamblers, because when it's illegal, it's illegal. Very often you would see things that we would never see anywhere in the world. You would see a very small gambling spot and right next to it a lombard where you can bring in all your valuable stuff and continue gambling. It's actually completely forbidden according to any rules of morality and all sensible regulations.
Often free market reforms can indeed boost the economy, but they're also often not always so well received by the general public. How is the public receiving these proposals?
Well, one of the great things about it is what we notice is that on average 70 to 75% of people were against the land reform that we are currently proposing.
When
But
was that?
all of the time since the survey began from like many years ago, and that figure never shifted, never changed. But according to the recent polls, 71% of the population trust and support the president. So when president, using his level of support, came out and said, look, I am for land reform, we saw an immediate shift in public opinion. So according to the recent poll, 51% support the land reform and only 38% oppose. This is actually a great thing. It shows that if you have a good idea and people trust you, you can actually change people's minds.
What about the president personally? Is he indeed libertarian, or is this libertarian tag that the party has adopted maybe that isn't so sincere?
No, he's really libertarian, and he's absolutely opposed to any corruption. We have a lot of internal discussions, which I can of course not tell, but he's really focused on liberty ideas.
Okay, lastly, I know you're not focused on matters with regard to Russia, but I'm just curious, how might these reforms and Zelensky's program in general affect Ukraine's relations with Russia?
Well, we'll see. In my opinion, if we do become a much freer country than Russia, and we already are, just not in economical sense of words, Russians, at least the freedom-loving Russians, will look at Ukraine and think, hey, this country is moving to the direction that I would actually want my country to move on. And of course, more freedom brings more prosperity. It brings, just more sensible way of life, more enjoyable way of life. And when Russians will see that, hey, in Ukraine it's actually much more fun than it is in Russia, this, I will think, change the attitude towards Ukraine in Russia.
Okay, thank you very much, and best of luck with your reform agenda.
Thank you.